Of course, one of my biggest experiences was how it evolved, where I became conductor and musical director for Elvis Presley.
Yes, let's please talk about that, Bobby. I've got a bunch of Elvis questions for you, but tell me what comes up for you, just some of your memories and stories of working with Elvis.
Of course. Very good. Thank you for asking. I was, as I said, I was an agent.
Yeah.
And I was too busy now to play because I was very busy, booking acts and creating. And I created a two-wall situation for Robert Belay that people are still talking about it.
Amazing.
A two-wall is where the hotel pays for the entertainment, and they don't pay the star, but they pay for the band, they pay for the publicity, and they pay for the culinary workers.
Okay.
And then the act and the hotel split 50-50 on it. Okay. Now, so I created that with Robert Goulet. Anyhow, you asked me a question about how it evolved with Elvis Presley.
Sure.
Well, I'm booking acts, and as I said, I had a very good reputation because, to me, honesty is the most important element, the most important feature that anybody, I believe, could have.
Yeah.
And I tried to be, I was not interested in how much commission I was going to make. I was interested in like creating and booking acts that would do very well for that particular property.
Yes.
So every property had its own had its own merits and had its own needs.
Sure.
And I studied and learned to put exactly the right type of act in the right room. So it got to a point where the entertainment directors in Las Vegas trusted me, and they would give me their open dates. Well, this made my life very easy, and I became quite successful.
Yeah.
And so through that, I started booking many things at the Flamingo Hotel, and I became friends with Bill Miller, the entertainment director.
Okay.
And Bill told me, he says, Bobby, we have a new hotel that we're building called the International. And I really like you, and I like you to be musical director there for the lounge area. I said, well, thank you, Bill. That sounds wonderful. Who's going to be in the showroom? He says, Harry James.
Wow.
I said, well, you couldn't get a better man than Harry James.
Yeah.
So anyhow, about 2 or 3 weeks before opening, maybe 4 weeks, Bill Miller called. He says, Harry James reneges and does not want to do it for whatever reason.
Wow.
I'd like you to be the musical director for the showroom and the lounges, for the Flamingo and for the International. And we're bringing in hair show from Broadway for our legitimate theater.
Yes.
And I'd like you to be musical director for that too.
Wow.
I said, well, that's wonderful, Bill. I really appreciate it. But I didn't have that much experience as a conductor,
Okay.
So I studied at UNLV. I took a crash course.
Wow.
And I, drumming is a situation where a drummer knows the tempos and things. He knows,
That's right.
So the tempos is of utmost importance,
right,
for a drum chair, to learn the tempos and not play the exact tempos every time. So I knew tempos from playing drums. So anyhow, so I got a call from Bill Miller again. He says, Bobby, Elvis Presley is going to be opening. So first we have Barbra Streisand, and then we have Elvis Presley, but Colonel Parker wants to meet with you, Elvis's manager. So I met with Colonel Parker, And he said, I know you're musical director for the hotel, but I would like you to be musical director and conductor for Elvis, and we'll pay you an extra sum, separate from the hotel, but you still retain your position as musical director for the hotel.
It's incredible.
So I said, well, that's absolutely wonderful. So they had me, the hotel gave me permission to fly to Los Angeles. And I brought the lead trumpet player with me, Art Vasquez.
Okay.
I said, what is about to happen? I needed somebody to be there to prove that this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. When you get the call from Colonel Parker about Elvis, and they're asking you to do it, what are your thoughts and feelings about all of this?
Well, my thoughts were a little scary.
Yeah,
but I knew music. I had studied at Manhattan School of Music. I studied percussion, and so I knew I played vibes. I studied with Terry Snyder at the he was the percussionist for the Perry Como show, and I would go on every week.
Yeah. Then
I was playing with the Latin bands up in the Catskill Mountains at that time, and studied percussion. So I knew, from playing vibes and playing timpani and playing bells and xylophone and marimba and all that.
Sure.
So I was acquainted with the musical aspect of percussion.
Yes.
Besides just playing, which percussion, to me, drums is probably the most important instrument in an orchestra.
As a drummer, I can agree. Yeah.
Well, I could give you a very quick example.
Sure.
Is one time I'm playing with the house band at the Sahara Hotel, and I'm playing for George Burns and Ray Robinson.
Oh wow!
We're rehearsing.
Yeah. And
so I go home, to change, and I lived on the west part of town. There was only one way to get through. It was an underpass, only one underpass.
Okay.
Unfortunately, coming back, there was a rainstorm, and that underpass got flooded.
Wow.
Well, to make a long story short, I couldn't make the job.
Sure.
And because I couldn't make the job, the show didn't go on.
Yep, that's right.
Because if a trumpet player was missing or a saxophone player, I'm just trying to tell people the importance of drumming. A drummer is like a very focal point in an orchestra.
No
and
question.
Without drums, you don't have an orchestra.
That's right. And
so anyhow,
you were leading like 40 to 60 piece orchestras at that time, right? I mean,
okay. So what happened was when we opened up, we had with Elvis, we had the Sweet Inspirations, the Imperials, and Elvis had his own personal wonderful group, back in then.
Sure.
Could you put the light, please? And then they requested 24 strings and a full orchestra. So I had about 46 piece orchestra, and with the Sweet Inspirations and the Imperials, that kind of made it like 56.
Wow.
And with his group of 8, people, his own personal group, that made it like 64,
Wow.
So it was a really beautiful thing. Yeah. Anyhow, they flew me out to Hollywood, Colonel Parker.
Yeah.
And we went to RCA Studios, and I was the guest of honor. And they had me sit in the front of a long, like, table, a conference table. But all the executives of MGM Studios and RCA Records and whatever.
Wow.
And they put me in the front of the table. So I told Colonel Parker, I said, if you don't mind, Colonel Parker, could you please seat me somewhere else? I don't feel comfortable sitting in front of the table with all these top executives.
Sure.
He says, "No, Bobby, you're our guest of honor. You sit right there."
Amazing.
And to my left sat Elvis and Colonel Parker sat to my right.
What were your first impressions of Elvis?
Well, he was wonderful, man. He was wonderful. He was a gentleman. He was wonderful. We drove up to his home in Hollywood, and the big gates. You know, there's a big gate, and some big dogs were in the back of the gate, and there was maybe about 100 little girls, you know, outside the gate scratching away, you might say.
Yeah.
To try to get to Elvis.
Sure.
And I came. We entered, you know, and he welcomed me, and we had a wonderful time. And for the next couple of weeks, maybe 4 weeks, whatever it was, we spent time listening to tunes. And when he'd get excited, I'd get excited. We'd pick out the tunes for the first show, and we wound up with some wonderful tunes that we all loved. And some of his people were there, and he had a lot of his friends and some of the musicians, you know, his personal group. So we'd all get together and pick out the tunes.
Did you did you also get to play drums with Elvis as well as?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. I conducted.
Got it.
I didn't need to play drums. They had a wonderful drummer, Ronnie Tutz.
Ronnie Tutz, amazing drummer, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
A wonderful drummer, man.
Yeah. He
was just wonderful. And if I ever had to, I would be prepared too. But
yes.
Ronnie, fortunately, I mean, he was wonderful, and he never got ill, so there was never any necessity.
Yeah.
But he was just a wonderful player, and so were his other players.
Yeah.
So we picked out the tunes, and it came time for the opening, and Kirk Kerkorian, the chairman of the board of International and the MGM, I mean, a multi-billionaire and a wonderful, wonderful man, told me to go down to his tailor and have a tuxedo made.
Wow.
And I did that. So when it came to opening night, he asked me to be a host and greet the stars.
Wow.
It was 2,200 of elites, people in the audience.
Yeah.
Every star in Hollywood, on Broadway, and recording, and you name it, Cary Grant, Tony Curtis, Elizabeth Taylor, you name it, the biggest singing stars, whatever.
It's amazing.
So as I'm walking with Elvis for the opening, my dressing room was next to his, and he said, "Bobby, who's out there?" So I started naming. He said, "Oh my God," because I'm kind of nervous. This is a story. It's also in the book.
Yes.
He says, "I'm kind of nervous," and I said, "Well, Elvis, don't be nervous. They're just people out there. Yeah. You know, they think of them with no clothes on, and also think of them sitting on a toilet seat. You know, they're just people that do everything that every normal people do." So,
sure.
So he was felt a lot more relaxed.
Yeah,
and he was, and he gave me the thumbs up sign. You know, as we opened it.
That's fantastic.
And it was amazing show. Yeah. And it will go down in history.
Yes.
This was July 1969, July 31st, 1969. And by the way, I'm being interviewed tomorrow for the 50th anniversary.
That's right.
On the Ed Bernstein television show here in Vegas at 9:30 in the morning, and it'll be shown all through the West Coast, possibly places on the East Coast.
That's fantastic.
And so Ed is interviewing tomorrow morning at 9:30, and that's the reason I came back very early from San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, happy anniversary. That's a huge deal. 50th anniversary.
Tomorrow is the 50th.
Yes.
It was July 31st, 1969. A day, like Roosevelt said, would go down in infamy.
That's right. That is incredible. Yeah. So you calmed Elvis down, and it sounded like it was an incredible show. I was curious to know, were you nervous, and who calmed you down?
Well, I'll tell you, I wasn't. I knew I was prepared.
Yeah.
And when I'm prepared, I wasn't nervous.
Yeah.
And I was just very excited and thrilled.
Yeah.
At this massive happening in show business.
Sure.
Which, in today, even today, 50 years later, people are talking about that situation of July 31st, 1969 as the biggest happening in show business. And there were many big stars, many big stars.
Right.
But nothing compared to that particular opening and that particular show.
Yeah, and I was trying to think when I was reading that story about what would be the equivalent today, because this is sort of like, people don't know, but like this was the Super Bowl kind of thing, or maybe even bigger, of music. You know, all the TV stations were there, and the media and the stars. Is that fair to say, the Super Bowl of music, or would you equate it to something different?
No, I would say it was probably maybe even bigger than the Super Bowl.
Even bigger, yeah.
Because Super Bowl happens once a year.
Yeah.
This happens once a lifetime.
Right.
This is only once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I have been with many stars. I mean, Lena Horne, Judy Garland.
Yeah.
Whatever, you name them. As I said, I had the opportunity to play for every star.
Right.
Fortunately, because I was with the relief band that paid twice as much as the regular band.
Right.
There was only one star that I didn't play for, and that was Betty Hutton.
Okay.
And she came in with her own drummer. And at the time, and you might know him as Remo Belli.
Yeah. Heard of Remo.
I'm sure you're acquainted with Remo.
Sure.
Well, Remo and I became a dear friend of mine.
Wonderful.
And needless to say, a multi-millionaire from the drumhead that he created, or that he wound up with.
Yeah.
There's a long story about that too.
It's amazing. Yeah. Can I ask you a couple of more Elvis questions, because I
of course, absolutely.
I'd love to hear the Remo questions, but since we're on the stories with Elvis,
of course.
The whole thing of Elvis has left the building, because these were a string of shows. The first one was legendary, but a string of shows together. The whole thing of Elvis left the building. Did you come up with that and create that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, there was a man who was kind of working for the Elvis family, you know, and for Tom Diskin, and Tom Diskin was Elvis's, Colonel Parker's personal assistant. Okay. And this man came up with Elvis has left the building after, I believe, the first or second show, and it became a thing where it became quite famous. Yeah, actually, because and many other things, but there's many situations that happened. With Elvis, you know, he had a wonderful sense of humor, and sometimes very caustic type of sense of humor, in a way that not caustic in being mean, but being funny. Yeah. And I'll give you an example of that. Yes, Joe Esposito, his personal friend and kind of like assistant that he spent time with in the service in the Army. Yeah. So they became very close friends. Well, it was Joe's birthday after one of the shows, and the bakery made him a gigantic 7-layer cake of about maybe 6 foot round, all around.
Yeah.
And I was just dying to get a piece of it.
Sure.
So anyhow, they put candles in, and Elvis had Joe blow out the candles, and as he had him blow out the candles, he pushed his face into the cake.
Oh no!
well, that ended my appetite for the 7-layer cake.
Right. That's fantastic.
But Elvis had a wonderful sense of humor. He was funny, and he loved to have his guys around him all the time, and he enjoyed himself. But unfortunately, it was very difficult for him too, because he was not able to go out in public. Otherwise, people would scratch away. They would choke him to death.
Right.
They would, for instance, after one of the shows, I'm in the casino, and I'm having a 7-Up or something, and girls would come down. Oh, you're Bobby Morris, Elvis conductor. Oh, we would do anything if we could meet Elvis.
Yeah, sure.
Well, my dressing room was next to his, so I decided to invite some of them backstage, and because his dressing room was very close to mine, and in his there were many stars like Tom Jones, Humperdinck. I mean, all Danny Kaye, all the big stars of the day that were appearing in Vegas.
Sure.
So they would congregate after the show and come to see Elvis, and he wanted some breathing space.
Right.
So he would come into my dressing room once in a while just to like relax, man.
Sure.
And, just to sit down and relax. Yeah. Well, he came in one time and there were these little girls there, and I said, girls, this is say hello to Mr. Elvis Presley. Inevitably, one or two of them would faint.
Yeah.
And they would go, oh my God, and it was he had that kind of presence where he was like a living God. I mean, he was absolutely like just an amazing figure, and musically and literally. I mean, he's just a wonderful person, man.
Yeah, and you were really with him at the top of his game in the late '60s, early '70s. You write in your book. You write that you didn't see the struggles that he went through later in the late '70s.
No, I didn't.
No.
I got very, very busy in the entertainment business, and it was very difficult for me to because I was still booking acts, and you can't. How many hats can you wear?
Right.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And a situation arose with Bill Cosby that I would rather not go through at this time. It's very distasteful to me,
Okay. Yep, that's fine. Can I ask, when was the last time you saw Elvis, and what was that interaction like?
The last time I saw Elvis was possibly at the Sahara Tahoe. And it was very friendly. I mean, very nice, and he was always very pleasant to me, and very cordial and friendly and very nice. We were friends, and I had spent time, picking out music and picking out like different arrangements that I felt would be very worthy of his presence,
Yes. Now, one of the things that he did that I really love, and I don't know if you had anything to do with this, Bobby, but he did a medley, the Little Sister and the Beatles Get Back medley. Did you put that together with him?
I don't remember. I don't remember if I put it together or if it was already there.
Remember. Got it.
Yeah, I'm
Got it.
sorry. I don't.
That's okay. Totally. You know, it was obviously a very sad, huge thing in 1977. I mean, most of the world can say where they were when Elvis died.
Yes.
And, you know, my mom actually had tickets to the show in Augusta, Maine that he was going to be coming to. Where were you, Bobby, when you found out that Elvis had passed?
Well, as I said, I was still in Las Vegas, very, very heavily involved in the entertainment business and about to accept a few positions as entertainment director, and doing very well. And I heard about this, and I was, needless to say, I was. Yeah. It was one of the sorriest, one of the lowest days of my life, because I really, really cared for him, and and for him to pass away and so untimely, and in such a horrible way, it was unnecessary, and I'm sorry that Colonel Parker couldn't at one time they gotten a hold of him and send him on an island with about 10 or 20 girls, and just parachuted some food and drink on it so he could come down to earth and come down to reality, you know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
because life got very unrealistic and impossible for him. It became impossible, and to respect that he was not able to enjoy life anymore. He couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't do anything. And it was like, where's the joy? What you know, to be, he was like a prisoner in his own body, in his own room, and in his own environment. And it was very unfortunate.
Absolutely.
And I was very, very saddened by it. I really, truly loved him, and I wish to God that he would have taken better care of himself, and it didn't happen.